Okay, good evening. Mr. Vice President, would you work the gavel for me?
There you go.
Okay, okay, thank you. I'm calling the October 1st work session of the Keystone Central School District Board of Directors to order. We will begin with the salute to the flag and a moment of silence. If someone in the room would start the Pledge of Allegiance, I would appreciate it.
Certainly, Mr. President. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you may be seated. I apologize that I cannot be there in person tonight, but some family issues have kept me away for this week. An executive session was held tonight from 6 o'clock p.m. till 6:30 p.m. and we will go back into executive session a little bit later after this work session is over. We'd like to begin with the roll call. Mrs. Long.
Mr. Allen.
Present.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Coe. Ms. Lynch.
I'm sorry, this is Elizabeth. I can't hear anybody.
Mr. Miller.
Bo.
Yes. I'm here.
Mr. Probert.
For some reason, Mrs. Long's mic is not functioning.
No, I can't hear anything either.
Mr. Probert,
Here.
Mr. Koch,
I'm present.
Mr. Lynch,
Yes,
or Mrs. Lynch.
yes, that's fine.
I'm looking at
I'm
Mr.
here.
Lynch in front of me in the
All
meeting.
portions of me.
Mrs. Lynch. And did we get everyone?
I'm here.
Mrs. Smith.
Here. And Mr. Strauss.
Mr. Allen. 8 members present.
My apologies, I have a train going by me.
Mute. So as Mr. Miller has a train going by you, the next section on our agenda is a presentation from Mr. Lynch, the Director of Career and Technical Center. You should be able to see right from there.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Martin. I appreciate that. It's apparently a short train, so it's now passed.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share the presentation from my screen since you're there, and he can cue me a little easier. Kurt, you can go ahead and talk, and I'm going to hook up.
Okay. Good evening. Tonight I'm here to give a presentation on basically the state of the CTC and where we're at and the changes I've made since I came to back to Keystone Central. And there's a lot of things, a couple things we're going to go over, and I'm going to try to catch up on what is going on currently.
Chad, are you able to share that presentation? I'm not logged into the Zoom meeting since I'm in the Zoom meeting. Is it possible for you to share that presentation that's on the agenda? All the board members have access to it on the agenda if you want to pull it up yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt, you can go ahead with
Okay.
your.
I'd like to talk about, tonight we'll talk about enrollment trends, our industry certification program, our new programs and new initiatives that have been started in the past year and a half. Your enrollment trend in 17-18, you had 203 students enrolled in CTC programs in the district. In 18-19, you had 257 students enrolled in CTC programs. In 19-20, of course, we put in 9th and 10th grade, we increased the enrollment to 432 students in CTC programs. I think it's 175 additional students we added. This year currently as 9/24/20 was when I pulled this data. Today was our October 1 snapshot, and the data is a little higher. We had 480 students actually enrolled as of the 10/1 snapshot. So we are increasing. I'll be very honest with you. I was expecting more students. COVID, of course, has played a little role into some decline. I was expecting over 500 easily, and we've lost some here and there, but your programs are strong, very strong in 9th and 10th grade, more weak in 11th and 12th because of us starting the new 9th and 10th grade. So in the next year or two, you should see that funnel into your other areas that will increase enrollment across the CTE. Now remember, each increase in enrollment is basically a federal, through the state, $1,000. So if I increase 100 kids, it's 100,000 to the district. So as we increase, we'll see some extra subsidy. Industry certs are important because it's how this school is judged. It's one of our indicators with the federal government and also the state government. And you can see in 17-18, 103, 18-19, 146, and in 19-20, we got that up to 580 industry certified students in different areas. And you see there's a little note there at the bottom. There's certain things you can put into PIMS that's recorded for the state, and there's also industry certs in the PDE booklet that there is no pull down for PIMS. So if you would look at just straight PIMS data for the school, you'd see less than 580, but the Perkins data indicates 580 were recorded last year. So there is some discrepancy still within state reporting. But as we go through this, there's a lot of schools asking for other pull downs so that those can be recorded. A lot of get reported under other, and then you type it in because it's not in the pull down menu to be reported. So that's why you see that number in the asterisk. I want it to be clear that you know the difference and why you're seeing that large number. They were pretty easy gets. I got some free things there, and we also went out and got a lot of industry recognized things that they just weren't taking advantage of before. New programs, you always had diversified occupations, you really didn't use it. So when Dr. Martin came, Daisy Killinger now is your diversified occupations co-op coordinator. And I'll talk a little bit about that. We have a pre-apprenticeship and now apprenticeship program, fully enrolled. Advanced health professionals with LHU and UPMC. Diversified occupations is basically for students who aren't in CTC. Because of enrollment, you can't get in. We don't offer the program, things like that, or excessive growth. So last year you had approximately 18 enrolled. This year, right now, today, I believe she was mid-20s. So she was like 22, 23, 24, somewhere in there. That number can fluctuate. So they're basically 12th grade students that are now out working in a job, but they weren't enrolled in a CTC program. So the difference is if they're enrolled in a CTC program, they go into a cooperative education setting. If they're not in a CTC program or the program is fully going to diversified occupations, which falls under CTC, and there's a NOCTI performance test associated with that. And they are fully funded at $1,000 per kid also. New programs, I did a presentation on this, I guess about a year ago or more. Both programs, we were just ready to kick off the full apprenticeship program when COVID hit, and that got canceled, but we did start it in July at PMF Industries, and is now in your facility. It's with Norson and PMF. It's basically people that are at work, and then they come back, they're fully paid by their companies, and the companies pay for them to get additional training, and at the end, they are a registered apprentice through the state, through Keystone Central School District. That is the exact certificate in the corner. There are two certificates we hold at the district. We own both of those programs. So unfortunately, we had gotten a $250,000 grant for the apprenticeship. A week later, they took it back due to COVID. So we are on the list if it ever opens up again. We were successful in getting that grant, and I had referenced that grant in other meetings, other board meetings, and we were awarded the grant, and then COVID they took it away to allot the money in other places. But we're still on the list if it comes available again. We're currently looking for a federal grant with the Workforce Investment Board for apprentices. That is still sitting out there. So you have apprentices that come in here on a Monday night, they're taught by our instructor, and then they pay us rent to use the facility, and they pay our instructor. They pay the instructor from monies through the Workforce Investment Board. Pre-apprenticeship program, we got that done over the summer, and you have 10 students downstairs fully enrolled in that program. Now what happens is if they get the pre-apprenticeship hours here, they are deducted from the apprenticeship hours when they're hired by a company that that works with us through the apprenticeship. So we already have 2 of those students that are going to probably be hired at one of these partners, and they will have hours toward their registered apprenticeship. Then there's the LHU program, Advanced Health Professions with UPMC and LHU. It's basically a dual enrollment program. There's 23 currently enrolled. They get dual enrollment credits at LHU. They are already in their health track, and they have a liaison at LHU, but then they also go to UPMC, and they can do like a clinical rotation to see what they want to do when they go to college and make sure it's the right place. Right now, UPMC was closed, so everything we're doing, we got them to do virtual meetings with the students. So myself or Mrs. Killinger attend those virtual meetings too with the students, and then I'm in contact between LHU. So they get dual enrollment, they get like an internship type job shadow, and that would be a full year at the hospital. And then, of course, they're at LHU, so they're going to look at them as prospective students because they only take so many into nursing and other areas. And you can read there a little bit about it. That's basically a little gist of what's been going on in CTC in, say, the last year and a half. Is there any questions for myself?
No, I would just like to say that I greatly appreciate everything that you are doing in growing this program. It has been needed for a long time, and the fact that you have taken this and run with it, I am very happy with the job that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Now,
agree.
Mr. Lynch, in echoing Mr. Elling's comments there, I hope you don't feel like you're becoming a victim of your own success, because obviously we're seeing great things, and we're going to want to see even more. But we know you're up to the challenge.
We're working on some more, I promise.
Well, as you know, this was part of our comprehensive plan, was to increase the number of partnerships with other places in the community. So I think that Mr. Lynch's work, along with Ms. Killinger, who's been really making a lot of connections with some outside agencies, has been really helpful. I know that we've also opened some doors for our Bucktail students. I think I've talked with many of those students about their trip up and down. That seems to be working out just fine, but also to encourage them to take advantage of CTC programs and provide them equal opportunity and equal access to those programs. We've also asked our technology department, Mr. Crape, who's here, to provide a MiFi on the bus runs for our career and technical students, since they are on the bus for an extra hour in their day, that if they choose to use their devices and access to study or to drop projects into teachers or some things of that nature, that we're also not inhibiting their access to their instructional tools during transport. And it's a little added cost for us from the technology side of things, but I think that it's fair to offer that to our students since they do have the extra travel time. Any other questions on the comments, or how many students do we have from Bucktail participating now?
It's in the teens, and we have 3 at the LHU program. So we'll make headway there. We just got to get some here, and then they see it's successful, and they'll come.
So great opportunities for our kids. Thank you so much, Mr. Lynch.
Thank you for your support, because you've been very supportive of me.
Yes, thank you. Next on our agenda is hearing of visitors. Mrs. Long, do we have anybody signed up to speak?
No, there's no one signed up to speak.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear whether that was a yes or a no.
No.
No, there's no one signed up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll go right into the superintendent's report. Dr. Martin?
I have a very brief report for you this evening. Just wanted to let you know that beginning October 5th at Bucktail High School and on October 12th at Central Mountain High School, family food boxes will be available to families on a first-come, first-served basis from the Central PA Food Bank. In addition to children's breakfast and lunch meals, the family food boxes may contain items such as shelf-stable milk, canned fruits and vegetables, cereals, canned tuna, and snacks. We've also returned to free breakfast and lunch for families, for students in our schools, but also if there are families in our community who have children age 1 to 18 and maybe they're remote students or they're virtual academy, or maybe they attend the charter school or the Catholic school, or even a cyber school outside the district, that they are eligible to pick up these free meals too. And we do have 2 pickup locations in the district. This is an extension of the summer feeding program that we did over the summer. And because they picked that back up, we've kicked that into gear as well. We want continue to implement. It's Velcro.
One more.
Thank you.
Sorry.
We continue to implement our health and safety plan and also revise our athletics health and safety plan as dictated by legal actions at the state level. I can't begin to tell you how frustrating it is for these changes back and forth. As many of you are aware, we received another notification of changes at 1:30 p.m. So today, there are again changes to our plan, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the athletics section of our agenda this evening. At this time, we still have no known cases of COVID-19 in our staff or students. We did have one case I mentioned to you before that was in a member of our coaching staff. It was a part-time coach. There was no contact with students, so therefore we did have that one individual quarantining or isolating actually separate from our students and the rest of our staff. So it was an isolated incident, and it didn't have any impact on our instructional program or athletics program other than stand-in coach for a short period of time. We do have some individuals have been tested, and we have some individuals who are waiting test results. So, we continue to monitor the situation. I stay in touch with the Department of Health and PDE at least once to 2 times per week to monitor the local COVID situation, the community spread, and more recently, they are getting more to the granular level of data. They keep shaking things out, looking more deeply at not just numbers in the community, but what age group are those individuals impacted. They've done an in-depth study of the Center County numbers, and what I can tell you is the age group that is significantly impacted in the Center County numbers continues to be in the 16801, 16802, 16803 zip codes, and it is students basically at the university, but the people infected are between the ages of 18 and 24. So those numbers are significant. The State College School District did opt to go back to in-person classes this week, despite the high numbers in their region, but because it was not impacting their students, they made that decision. So I continue to watch those numbers for us, continue to watch the age group numbers, and stay in touch with DOH. At this point in time, right now, I see us continuing our instructional programming as is. I know the board is aware of this, but the public may not be aware that we did dissolve our hybrid program approximately 2 weeks ago due to the low enrollment numbers in that option. We had many families that opted for that or selected that in the beginning. When they came to time to select it, they actually decided to come back face-to-face. And many of those students also then decided once they were in school, being remote, and things were going well with our plan, that they felt safe enough to join our classrooms. So the few that were left, we asked them to make a choice between remote at home or joining our classrooms face-to-face, and the majority of those students did come back into classrooms. So we have a much higher number of students back with us. I think the last count that I looked at was somewhere in the neighborhood of 80% of our students are back face-to-face, while the remaining 20% are either in virtual academy or in a remote option at home. Looking at the numbers, approximately, I guess on average, maybe a classroom teacher may have her regular, he or she regular classroom and about 2 students at remote. I've seen some numbers as high as 6, some at 0, 1, but most of our students have returned. I will tell you, we're working through the growing pains of our new instructional model. You know, it was very fast turnaround to go from traditional learning to the flexible learning solutions that we're offering. And you can imagine with that, there's been some bugs to work through. We've worked through many of those quick bugs about passwords and connectivity and devices and so forth. And some of those bugs we can't work through because it's very difficult to even provide a MiFi to a family who doesn't have access even with the MiFi. So we've even looked at changing our vendors, switching that up a little bit and solving some more of those problems. Our staff is working very hard to adapt and be responsive to our students and family. Right now, we're working through some attendance protocols being modified and communicating that out to families. Just as an example, we've had some students who were scheduled to be face-to-face, and they woke up one morning and decided they'd like to try remote. In some cases, their parents weren't aware of that individual's wish, but they weren't being marked absent. So we've had to make some adjustments to our attendance policies and protocols with this new situation, and getting those bugs worked out as well. The learning curve is very steep for many of our teachers. They feel like first-year teachers this year. They're putting in a lot of extra hours, even the veterans and so forth. It's just a lot more steps for them. And again, taking their curriculum, their content, moving it into a learning management platform that they may or may not have used before is taking them some extra time. So you may hear that from some of our staff, but I want to continue to stay the course, continue to support them, and work towards being a world-class school district in the 21st century. We were headed this direction anyway. It went a lot faster than we anticipated, but we still have the high expectations along with the high support for them. Again, we have access to instructional coaches, our district program leaders, curriculum innovation department, our tech department. And that leads me to the final thing I wanted to mention is a shout out to our tech department as well as our custodial maintenance staff. They've been attending to many work orders and addressing needs that our teachers have in order to make these instructional programs work. And the number of work orders has been quite significant, and they continue to handle them as fast as they can when they come in. And I do believe that both of those departments understand that their role is to support instruction, and they have worked very hard to make that happen. So it's going to take all of us, all hands on deck. And the biggest issue that we're handling right now is the lack of substitutes. So if anybody here, anybody listening in the community has any idea of some individuals that would like to substitute for us in the capacity of support staff or professional staff, we certainly could use your help. And that's all I have for you this evening.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Martin. Any members of the board have any questions for our superintendent? If not, we'll go into committee reports. Mr. Probert, any updates on curricular / co-curricular?
Yeah, Mr. President, we didn't have any agenda items for the September curricular co-curricular meeting, so we canceled the meeting.
Okay. Mr. Johnston, facilities?
Yes, thanks. The Facilities Committee met this past Tuesday afternoon, and we had about mainly 4 or 5 items on our agenda. First of all, you'll see on tonight's agenda, that the two, excuse me, two roof projects, the Bucktail High School and the Central Mountain High School roof projects are on the agenda for next week to be approved. And we were asking, the committee is recommending that you go ahead and do that. And the main reason for that is to be able to lock in these prices at current levels, and also so that they can start working on get a head start on some of the preservation work that needs to be done before they can get started. And hopefully they can even get started on these projects by spring of next year. So you'll see those two listed. Second item on our agenda, we discussed a couple change orders that came about through the middle school project through the summer. One is for carpeting and floor tile that was put in by Gallagher Carpet. And also the air monitoring that was done through as part of the asbestos abatement. There's the final charges there that were incurred as a result of that. So you see that Clear Air and RL abatement is for the air monitoring and some extra things they ran into as far as some extra asbestos that they had to remove. So those change orders, that's what they're all about. Third item, I think Mr. Miller was approached via email by a gentleman who owns a tract of land adjacent to the high school, the Central Mountain High School. Approximately 42 acres of land. It's back up Lusk Run Road direction from the tennis court area. And he wanted to make it available to the school district if they had any interest in purchasing this parcel of land. We discussed it, and it's kind of obvious that at this point we certainly are not interested in getting into any more purchase of any real estate for obvious reasons. So we're going to, I think Superintendent's going to send this gentleman a letter thanking him for considering us, but at this time we're not interested in pursuing that. The last item, which I think you'll be interested in, is the item on the Dickey School situation. We've been, as you know, waiting on the appraisals to come in. We had 2 appraisals being done that they were working on. We did get them back. The information, of course, is confidential, but we do have those, so we can use those as our point for moving ahead with what we want to do with the building. The contents in there are still being evaluated. I think Dr. Martin's going to have the principals go in and look at what is in there, set up a plan for that. We discussed how we want to go about this as far as actually getting the building on the market, so to speak. And because of the lateness that we're getting into we're already into fall. So what the committee and everybody that was at the meeting decided and thought would be probably the best course of action was to go ahead and kind of set time early in the spring to do an auction to auction the building and whatever contents that may still be available in there. So Rob was going to contact the auctioneer, set up a date, hopefully in early or mid-March at the latest, and we'll try to set up the auction for that time. And of course, the building will be winterized and so on for the next couple months. And I think Dr. Martin's also going to notify the folks in the city manager and the council as to what our plans are for the building, so they know that we're not just sitting idly by and not doing anything with it. So that was the recommendation, and basically those were the items that were discussed. And the next committee meeting of the Facilities Committee will be October 27th.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Strauss, anything on the Finance Committee?
Meeting will be October 6th, next Tuesday.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Smith, anything on personnel that you can tell us?
No, we met on September 21st and we'll be meeting again October 19th.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Koch, policy? Mr. Koch, you are muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Good. I'm still playing around with this toy here, all right. You'll see on the agenda there are 7 policies that are now up for second reading and due to be passed next week at our voting board meeting. Just a brief summary. 103.1 deals with non-discrimination against qualified students with disabilities. Policy number 104 deals with sexual harassment affecting staff. Policy 247 deals with hazing. Policy 249 deals with bullying and cyberbullying. Policy 252 deals with dating violence. Policy 317.1 deals with educator misconduct, and policy 824 deals with maintaining professional, adult, and student boundaries. This is on the second reading. You've had a chance for the past month to read on these. Is there anybody on the policy committee has anything to add to that?
Hi, Mr. Koch. It's Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm the same rotten character you've always known my beer.
You've done a terrific job, and I really want to thank the administrative team on your committee. They've really stepped up and they've highlighted some things in red, which I just thought was so great that they did, was that when the adult is to communicate to the student, the youth, only to use approved media venues, whether it's email or, so I really want to thank Mark and the team for adding all that in for us. They're a pleasure to work with. Thank you.
Okay, anything to add to that, Mr. Johnson? You're on the committee.
No, I think the committee's done a good job reviewing these policies. I think they should be ready for adoption.
Okay, anyone from administration that was present at that meeting would like to add anything?
Nothing here.
Okay, well, I want to thank everybody on the committee, including the administration that participates on this committee, to doing the hard work and making me look good. I appreciate it. Our next,
All right, thank you, Mr.
our next committee meeting
ahead.
will be the 14th of October.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Koch. We certainly appreciate that. And last but not least, Mr. Strauss, is there anything you can tell us about safety and security without violating our safety? And
Yes, we'll have a meeting October 7th that nobody can attend but the members that are allowed.
You get off easy.
Yeah.
You're crazy.
Simple.
Mr. Strauss and Mrs. Smith always get the easy ones. Okay, we'll go into section F, which is informational reports. We have the treasurer's report, the financial reports, and the enrollment reports. Are there any questions or comments on any of these? If not, section G is policy. I think that Mr. Koch has probably just given us a very good overview of what all of these are about. So if there's any questions or comments, please speak now. We will be voting on these next week for second read, and once that happens, they become basically law. Okay, item H is minutes. We have minutes from last month's work session and the voting meeting, and also the Facilities Committee meeting on September 29th, which would have been like 2 days ago. Questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go into section I, which is business. I1, bills for payment. Obviously, this is the long list that we have every month. Any questions or comments? Okay. I2 is Center County Commissioners related to a CARES Act allocation, and this would be an action to approve the COVID-19 County Relief Block Grant Fund recipient agreement with the Center County Board of Commissioners. And you'll find attached to the agenda both the text of the agreement and a letter. Any questions or comments on this?
So as soon as we approve this, then we have those funds to use. I read through it, and I'm assuming it's for all the COVID-related costs. I think it was like with $1,300 some dollars, if I recall the number of $1,350 or something.
That would be a question that perhaps the business manager could answer.
That's they would be available then as soon as it's
Yes.
approved.
Yeah, the agreement specifies it's to be used for Liberty Curtain, since those students they are in Center County for specific purposes. We submit receipts and then they'll reimburse us.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
We did
thank
not
you.
we did not request that money. They automatically did an allocation to all the schools.
That's what it kind of sounded like from what I read.
Okay, item I3 is an agreement with IU10 for incarcerated youth educational services to be paid for by the general fund. Any questions, comments, further explanation needed?
I would like to add some explanation to this one. This contract is something that the district does annually and has done for quite some time to have IU10 provide these services. However, I've been in contact with some of the officials from IU10 as well as the warden from the Clinton County Prison to look at maybe a more modern way to provide instruction to those incarcerated youth through our virtual academy, which could be done at a much lower cost than what we have been doing. So Warden Hoover and I are in conversations about that. We're going to be writing a formal proposal to partner. We're working on that next week. I do recommend that you approve this contract. However, upon the formalized program and partnership between between the district and the Clinton County Prison, so we can work through the commissioners and so forth, that eventually I would bring back to you probably in January to dissolve this contract. So we do need to approve it at this point is my recommendation, continue what we're doing up until we can get our program proposal organized for you.
Okay, thank you. Item I4 is an agreement between Keystone Central School District and ESS Northeast LLC for support substitute services paid for by the general fund. Questions or comments? Sounds like we certainly are in need of substitutes. Okay. Item I5 is agreement between the Keystone Central School District and Slippery Rock University. This is for a practicum, I believe, for their nursing program, where they would do placements with us. Any questions or comments? Next two items I6 and I7, are for roof replacements or rehabilitations. I6 is for Bucktail, project not to exceed $885,662, paid for by our 2020 bond issue. And items I7 is for the Central Mountain High School, not to exceed $2,076,613, paid for by the same funding source, which is our bond issue. Any questions or comments on those?
Are they going to be replacing or just repairing that roof?
At which location? Is it,
Both.
I believe it's different. Bucktail, I believe, is a replacement, and high school, they wanted to get done while they could still repair and put sections of new roof on.
Okay, so the section that is being repaired will have a 20-year warranty. What about the other stuff that's there? Because they're doing the whole thing, is it going to be the whole roof 20 years?
I believe so, but I can get back to you. I have all the other documents.
Susan, I'm on here. I can answer that if you need. Both of the roofs are getting recoated. No sections of it. We have small areas that have areas of wet insulation will replace. Everything is going to be recoated, and everything will carry a 20-year warranty when it's done.
The entire roof, correct?
The entire roof, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Both buildings. Roger, one exception at the high school, there's a small section that they redid just prior to me coming to the district. That section I don't believe is coded because it's covered under a different warranty. It'll be off by a year or a year and a half, but 99% of it will be all on the same 20-year warranty with the coding.
So we just can't have them take care of that too?
It's already taken care of, but it's a year behind on the warranty.
So
Because
we did like 19 years on that one, that piece?
well, we had 20 years on it, but we're already 1 year into it.
Well, yeah, that's one thing. All right, good
But
enough.
more than likely, it'll all flow out as a 20-year warranty because it's the same company, everything's the same. They're gonna stand behind it. They have all of our roofs, and they're very good to work with. So I don't feel like we're gonna have issues with any of that stuff there.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Bob, hi, this is Elizabeth. Thank you all for doing so much work on this. We all appreciate it. When would this approximately start and finish? I mean, approximately.
Elizabeth, we're going to do some of the work that we need to do right now, starting in October, some of the battening down, some of the things that the roof it's deteriorating a little quicker than we'd like to see, and we're trying to preserve it so that we don't get into additional cost. So they'll start some of the stuff at the high school at Central Mountain this year. Weather's going to drive a lot of that. If we get some nice weather into November, they'll get a lot more done. They'll come back in the spring. Bucktail High School, we'll do a little bit of work here this fall, but the majority of the work there will fall out in the spring, and that's mainly due to the reason of having to coordinate everything up there with McClure for the HVAC project and the curb cutting and that.
Okay, that's exciting. It needs to be done. It needs to be done badly. Just a quick question. I'm not asking for an answer now. I'm not. But everyone knows that the market supplies, some things are extremely difficult to find, and some prices have added by 25% or even more. When COVID and manufacturing comes back into balance, and if prices for materials hopefully goes down soon, do you think that their prices, if they got a lower cost, would be reflected back to the district? And again, I'm not looking for any answers right now, just something, it'd be nice to have sort of an understanding about that at some point. Thank you.
I can answer most of that at this point because we use the national IPA program a lot of it's pre-bid and it goes through RS Means for different pieces of it. A lot of the pricing we have is pre-COVID. They had to hold their pricing and it's all based on a national average out of the national books. So what we typically see is about a 10% increase per year on roofing cost. We're locking these projects next week, which will give us 2020 pricing. And I think that this is the best way to go forward to save the most amount of money. If there was a reason to wait because of COVID and supply and demand, we would, but roofing hasn't seemed to be a product that has been bad with supply and demand.
Okay. Any further questions on roofs? If not, item I8 is for Gallagher Carpet. And that is for the Central Mountain Middle School project, not to exceed $5,302.33, paid for by the 2020 bond issuance. Questions or comments?
I'm just curious as to why we're paying Todd Bryan for blue jeans on this thing.
In the Gallagher Carpet one?
Yeah.
Blue jeans is a color of the vinyl trim.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, that's the color of the vinyl base that's in the main office areas. It's called blue jeans, believe it or not.
School colors.
Okay.
Well, the hallway is going to wear blue jeans as well. So we
Can't say that our board doesn't read these documents.
That's right. Okay, item I9 is a contract for clear air for the middle school project, not to exceed $8,925, paid for by the 2020 bond issuance. This is obviously for air quality. Any questions or comments on that?
Has this already been done?
Yeah, this is what was done through the course of
Okay.
it. Mainly
So-
for that, I think for the asbestos abatement to monitor the air when we were
Yes.
doing that.
So we're basically just approving what's
Yes.
already been,
Right.
okay, the change orders that,
Right, and that
Correct.
okay.
and that's going to be tied into item I10, which is RL abatement, which was the actual asbestos abatement at the middle school, not to exceed $1,800, also paid for by the bond issuance. That yeah, those two are connected. So any questions or comments on either of them? If not, we'll move on to item J1, which is personnel. We have two attachments to the personnel agenda. One is our normal list of leaves of absence, employments, resignations, and retirements. And the other item is a list of club advisors for approval. That was just recently added here. Do we have any questions or comments on these items?
Mr. President, I just had a quick question. And I know they were thinking about, I can't remember if it was midterm, quarterly, half year, 6 months. I'm sorry, I don't remember. But they were going to start listing, or I believe I remember this correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. That they're going to start listing how many students are in each club.
I do vaguely remember that. We're probably a bit early into the year right now to
Right,
have
right.
really any solid data, because this is just starting out saying that, hey, we're going to have these clubs and these are going to be the advisors and what we're paying them.
Right,
So,
but does anyone
I would-
remember what that number was? Was it quarterly or was it at the end of the year? I don't remember.
I think it's at the end of the year, Elizabeth.
The numbers change all the time because many of these are clubs that function during the school year. So the number could be fluid, but we could pull an end of the year report of the number of students that participate in those clubs.
That'd be lovely. Thank you. Because me personally, I hope those numbers just keep going up and up and up. I'd love to see it. Love to
Well,
see it.
there's times when we dissolve clubs that haven't been meeting. We keep them on the books if they haven't gone. So I signed some paperwork to dissolve those clubs, but then at the same time, new clubs come about and so forth to stay current based on student interest.
Sure. Thank you all very much.
Yep, we probably don't have too many people who are involved in a phonograph club or something like that anymore, as that would probably be kind of out of date. But
The Polaroid Club.
Polaroid, yes.
VHS.
All kinds of other things could. VHS, I still could take the data with Superior.
Isn't the CTC program offering a photograph course? Or no, that was over the summer that they were going to offer.
Yeah.
Never mind.
All right. Under item K, we have K is athletics. We have our athletics personnel agenda, which I believe it basically is a couple of volunteers and an interim cross-country coach.
The interim was for a coach that had to fill in for us for a period of time. due to some COVID-related issues.
Is that what the asterisk is for on there?
That might be on there. She might have added that.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think all you had was volunteers on originally.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a single
Yeah.
asterisk, but that doesn't make
I
any
didn't-
sense.
I didn't know what it
well,
was for.
Tracy will have to get that corrected then, just to be accurate, but
I don't know.
I think it's just not meant to be there as a typo. But yeah, this, as you can see, the salary will be prorated for the amount of time worked.
Right. Okay.
Okay. That makes sense. And then item K2 is the revised health and safety, athletics health and safety plan. And I know it says 9/20, but is that even accurate anymore?
Well-
Since all kinds of things are changing.
Well, the plan itself that you see
sorry.
is accurate. The title of the plan is not. I can adjust that for next week because I have the document itself at the top now says October 1. And just the title of the attachment is different.
Okay, I didn't see the attachment today, obviously. Because I looked
Yeah,
at the materials.
it's when I download
prior.
the original name of the document that I download had that title in it. But at any rate, as of today, the revisions to the plan, I had changed the plan to allow spectators 2 tickets each for volleyball, 2 tickets for home students, 2 tickets for visiting players. That allows some spectators in. That's been going on. Things have been going just fine. However, after today's information that Governor Wolf's, there's a stay, another circuit judge did uphold the fact that his yeah, it limits on
Yeah.
spectators is 250 for outdoor and 25 for indoor. I added language to volleyball that says only when indoor crowd limitations are legally permitted to exceed 25 total persons, each player may receive a total of 2 tickets. That's what we've been following. But unfortunately, at this point in time, it now becomes illegal again in the moment. This could change again. As you all know, this has been so fluid and you know, my feeling about using our athletes and our families as pawns in a political game is not upstanding by anyone. Additionally, the only other change would be for Central Mountain varsity football and cheerleaders and band. That's the only other area that we get to the 250, had gotten to the 250 limit. We had opened that up and gone over the 250 to make sure that we could provide all of our players, band members and cheerleaders, at least 2 tickets for the events. And so what I changed that to and across the board would be that we would stick with a ticket allocation for our home, and only if there were additional tickets left over may the opposing team receive tickets. So instead of it will receive, the opposing visiting teams may receive. This plan allows us to take care of our own families first. And because of the nature of the size of the event, we do not have to change anything for our athletics program at Bucktail.
I have one thing that I would like to point out. And I know it's just a typo, but
In here?
yeah,
Oh, we'll get that
your
fixed up.
Central Mountain Volleyball, under Central Mountain Volleyball, you have each soccer player on the visiting team.
Oh, we can fix that because that is a cut and paste. That is a cut
So,
and paste.
just,
Thank you
know,
for catching
yep,
that.
just wanted to point
Again,
that
you
out.
read everything.
Now, I do have one other question, and I mean, I know a lot of these are common sense and we shouldn't have to say it, but, and some things we're saying, like in the outdoor, we're saying about the mask and social distancing,
Mhm.
but in the, for like the volleyball, it doesn't say anything about that.
We
I
can
mean,
add
it's
that.
just, you know,
Mhm.
if we're gonna do this, we might as well be
Mhm.
the same across everything, show consistency. Not that I like it, but
Regarding that copy and paste issue there. I just actually thought the administration was finding a really creative way to limit attendance from the visitors. That they'd have to be not only a volleyball player but also a soccer player. Is there some way we could do that with football and some of the other popular sports as well?
It just is, it's so frustrating to think that we can have 1,000 students in this building every day and we can't have over 250 people in a stadium, socially distanced, wearing masks outside. It just, these things don't make sense. I understand the intent, but it's very much in conflict with what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do when you actually relate it to science. So I'm frustrated for our families. I'm frustrated for our players, and hopefully we can put some of this to rest soon. I'm grateful for the fact that we can have athletic events and our students participate in band and cheerleading in both of our high schools and middle schools. I believe that these activities do a lot for helping our children be well-rounded, provide them with a lot of opportunities to grow and develop. So we're grateful on one side, but very disappointed in some of the things that are coming out from the legislature and how they're in conflict with what the Department of Health is saying, and taking away the local control from our school districts. So
I keep thinking back to a quote from that wonderful movie, Forrest Gump. Stupid is as stupid does. So, all right.
I'll be a little bit more diplomatic there than
I will.
than making that call. But I will say that I would like everybody out there who might be watching this or reading about it in the press to understand that those of us on the board are just as frustrated as, and also the administration, we're all just as frustrated as everybody else is. The conflicting information, the changing, the back and forth is it's just ridiculous. And unfortunately, we've got very, very little local control. I mean, we could break the law, but obviously that's not a very good idea because so much of our funding is dependent on state entities and so forth. So this is just very disheartening, and I would suggest that members of the general public contact their elected officials who can actually impact change on these items, though I'm fairly sure that those elected officials probably have their minds made up on it or fairly inflexible, but never hurts to try. I think that actually is the last item on our agenda. So is there any further business to come before this board during this work session? If not, I will call for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, I would just like to point out that I actually went to the very first football game that we had this year, and I was really impressed by how everybody was following the rules and doing what needed to be done. I actually walked up to the gate and they said, we're already at our max. And I said, well, that's good because I don't want to come in. I just wanted to see how things are going. And I got nothing but good reports. And, you know, I would like to just say thank you to the general public, the students, the coaches, everybody that's involved with this. I know that we're dealing with some tough times, and I think it's great that we're following these rules so that way we can actually get out there and play. Thank you.
Yes, much agreed, Mr. Elling. And there, before you qualified your statement, I was going to say, wait a minute, how'd you get a ticket? I didn't get a ticket, but I understand where you're coming from. All right. Just a reminder to members of the board that we will be going back into executive session at about 10 minutes after the end of this meeting. I think we probably all need a bio break and so forth. But if there's nothing else, I will call for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. And without objection, this board will stand adjourned. We'll see everybody back here 6:30 next week for the work session. Again, a reminder to the board, we are going back to exec in about 10 minutes.